Example 3, 3x over 2 plus 8 minus 4x over 7 equals 3. Let me just make one mention real quick, and if I've lost your attention because you already know what you're doing, because you've gotten all these right already, and you think you know everything I know about this, let me just point out one thing you might not know that I do know is going to happen at some point in the very near future, and it's not going to be revisited before this happens. So far, everything in front of these multiple termed objects has been a plus sign. If this were a minus sign, it would be minus this and minus that. Minus minus makes a plus. Make sure that signs change. And again, it shows up in homework before it actually gets dealt with as an example. And I keep meaning to change my examples, but I keep forgetting. So I'm guessing that next year I'm going to say the same thing to that class at that point in time. But anyway, we'll see. At some point I might change this up, and maybe we'll see. Anyway, but again, so far it's been plus every time. At some point it's going to become a minus in front of those. Be careful the minus distribute. So 3x over 2 is fine the way it is. It's going to be plus 8 over 7 minus 4x over 7 equals 3. Alright? I might even put 3 over 1 just so it looks like a fraction. If I have fractions in a problem, if everything looks like a fraction, then I know to treat everything the same way. Least common denominator of the fractions is 14. So multiplication by 14, which is legal again because it's an equation. Divide first, then multiply. So 14 divided by 2 is 7 times 3x is 21x. 14 divided by 7 is 2 times 8 is 16. 14 divided by 7 is 2 times negative 4x is negative 8x. 14 divided by 1 is 14 times 3 is 42. If you didn't put the over 1, just 3 times 14 is 42. Even though it's not a fraction, it still has to be multiplied by the number. If you modify any numbers, you have to modify every number to make sure that happens. 16 moves over here, so now I have all my numbers on the right, all my x's on the left. 21x minus 8x makes 13x. 42 minus 16 equals 26. We divide both sides by 13. That gets me x equals 2. And just so I can be a little bit better teacher than I was last year, because I always like to try and improve, let me just throw one up here with that situation. So let's say I have 2/3 minus 3x minus 4 over 2, over 2 equals, let's say, 17/6. Let's say we get that problem. By the way, this is probably going to be a fraction, because I sure didn't think very much about that. So, whatever we get, we get. Anyway, what I want you to notice about this is, again, that's a minus sign. So when I go to split this second fraction, when I split this guy up here, let's see what the effect is of that. So 2/3. It's going to be minus 3x over 2. And it's going to be minus minus, so it's going to be plus 4 over 2. Equals 17/6. So the issue at hand is that sign right there, which was negative, now it's positive, because that minus sign does distribute through the numerator. Alright? I think everybody probably, as I wrote it down, saw 4 over 2 equals 2. We're getting rid of the fractions the next step anyway. There's already a 2 on the bottom, so making that into 2 is not going to make it any simpler, so leaving it 4 over 2 is fine. Least common denominator of all these fractions is 6. 6 divided by 3 is 2 times 2 is 4. 6 divided by 2 is 3 times negative 3x is negative 9x. 6 divided by 2 is 3 times 4 is plus 12. 6 divided by 6 is 1 times 17 is 17. If I move the 4 and the 12 over, which is a total of 16, right? Minus 16, so negative 9x is equal to 1, so x equals negative 1/9. Alright. Be cautious if there is a minus sign that the distribution happens. So the sign here changes to its opposite. That's the place where people tend to mess up. And I've mentioned it 3 times now, and some people still mess up. So just be careful when you're doing these problems. Use the brain, think through the process. When you're splitting things apart, think about rules like this minus sign rule, that you focus on that kind of stuff.